Welcome to this session. Here, Sandvik will present how we have made the journey, the digital journey of unifying system data and processes within SAP PLM with supporting of ECTR. Presenters of the day will be me, Rickard Nordgren, working in Sandvik Coromant today within the PLM area.
And also me, Joakim Jonasson, working also in PM R&D at Sandvik Coromant as the solution architect.
Together with us today as well, we will have Achim Rossel from DSC joining later in the presentation. Starting up with the Sandvik view, a short one. We are a global company present in several areas in the regions. We invest a lot in R&D, which will be the home firm from our side then. Sandvik is divided into several business areas. It's mining and rock solutions, materials technology, rock processing solutions, and our area machining, manufacturing and machining solutions. In Sandvik Machining Solutions, we are divided into several divisions, which are the one that we mainly are in now in Sandvik Coromant, which will be part of a joint solution we're presenting today for our PLM area. We are in the metal cutting business industry, supporting many different customers worldwide. If we go deep into the project and where we are and where we position ourselves going forward, if we look from the starting point, we had a scattered environment, issues globally supporting efficiency and really going towards a digital journey. So we decided to run this project, putting the pieces together, form the PLM journey for us, and for an implementation of the common working methods, securing the structure of the data, and of course the platform as a system, as a base then. If you look on the journey that we had several islands of information, not in all ways connected. Therefore, we looked into the SAP solution, see how we can sort of support a design to operate structure, meaning that we're putting all the data together, and also with the support of the user interface with CAD integration of ECTR, we really build the foundation for something to build upon.
Right, and this is where we come into play. So Achim Rossel from DSC Software, like Rickard has mentioned before. We are very proud, of course, to have Sandvik present our project here, because it's a perfect example how we try to be a companion for our customers in the area of integrative PLM. We supported this project as we only do SAP PLM and ECTR projects at all. This is what we do as a company. We're a PLM company since over 30 years with a tremendous amount of experience in PLM, as you can see. And also with a focus to not only deliver software or consulting services, but really to bring together both to help our customers step by step to come to where they want to be as part of their digital journey. So without further ado, I want to bring it back to Sandvik to show us a bit more on actually what the project was all about. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Achim. So going into project setup and parts of the time plan, when we started up the journey from our side, we had a fairly straight idea of doing this in a way thick and short, trying to deliver as fast as possible, but fairly soon as well, we saw that the transformation within the company towards something new was really a change. Therefore, we ended up in multiple adjustments in the project setup, scope, and of course time plan. We needed to increase with resources in several areas. So we started fairly small, short time plan, but ended up with quite a big project, and also ending up in a longer period of roughly 3 years then. What we did as well was during the time we divided the project into different areas, putting up in different work packages, running according to the method and approach to really try to cut it down and deliver in pieces. We thought that was a good idea going forward then, and ended up in a global rollout in the end that we will come back to later. What we saw from a history point of view when we reviewed the project in the end, that blueprinting is a good thing, but moving into practical parts, starting prototyping early is something we need to do going forward as well. And of course, when you run a lot of work packages, there are some challenges in keeping the end-to-end perspective together. That is something to have in mind as well. We did a lot of replanning. We had a lot of requirements that we put in. That was a challenge in the end when we had testing parts. We had a lot of testing in the end. We had 4 weeks of UAT testing, meaning that we needed to be as prepared as we could be in order to launch the project in the end. So now we will move over and review the solution, which Joachim will present more.
Okay, Joachim here, so I will talk a little bit around the solution then. So it will still be a bit high level, but we will go down to some details at least. So starting with what Rickard said there, we implemented the SAP Engineering Control Center. And what is Engineering Control Center then? It's really about connecting engineering to the enterprise. Engineers usually work in their authoring tools. Engineering control centers enable us to connect that into the design to operate the process, so that it can sort of create a digital thread through the whole value chain, starting in the product development stage then. So that is, we found a really good solution for us then. This is the user interface that you can see, and it also provides standard integrations to a lot of mechanical CAD softwares. We, for example, are using Siemens NX, so that authoring tool is then directly integrated into SAP through the DMS system, so that you can store documents and drawings. And in this picture you see a 3D model of a tool, so that one exists in the SAP system, accessible for all the users. They also have electronic CAD integrations. That is something that we are now looking into for the future, going into sensorized products and all of that things. Another thing that is also really good is that you can integrate the Office products. So you can actually connect the Word documents, PowerPoints, and things that maybe are used in other processes as a gathering of information. And one example is that we use it in our engineering change process, where you can document things in the Office suite. But what it's all about is to enable a more user-friendly graphical interface for the engineers. So I don't know if you see on the picture, but you have like a folder structure, and it's more like Windows look and feel. You can use drag and drop and so on. So it really sort of enhances the SAP user interface. At Sandvik Coromant then today, all our designers and CAM engineers are working in SAP ECTR, Engineering Control Center. And here is also a picture of the UI. And in the past, as Rickard described, we had a lot of islands. We had the material master in SAP, but the design was in other systems, and the connection was text codes and stuff like that. And now when entering the fully integrated environment, we can have a clear relationship between the material master, the product design. We can create the bill of material directly from the CAD and store it in SAP. We can have change management. And of course, it's integrated then. So everything that you do in the authoring tool is then saved into SAP. So that's sort of the basics. What you see on the picture is more the structures that are in SAP represented by links and so on. So from an engineering perspective then, they can have everything in one interface. They can use this drag and drop, so you can structure your data and work in a more folder structure. And there is also a lot of search capabilities, and those ones we have, of course, tailored to our needs. We have sort of specific data around our products, but that's also some good functionality that we are utilizing that. Then, of course, creation of documents, linking, and so on. So that's a bit how we work. When it comes to product development, I think it's a lot about search and reuse. You search and find something that you can maybe is close to what you want, and then you reuse it and you modify it and tweak it a bit. So it's from an engineering perspective, searching is like key capability that must be really good. And here we have some different solutions but it's all in ECTR. We have classification search, where we can search really detailed on specific characteristics, like a specific measurement or a code or something unique on the product. And it's really fast, as it's utilizing digital data and it's not text and so on. That was more in the past. So that is really, really good. Another thing that we are also starting up using is something called Crosspoint, which is more of a fuzzy search. You could search for like keywords and more things like that. And it's also supporting like non-CAD users, for example, in manufacturing and so on. So that's the key search capabilities. One other big area that we have sort of implemented is our change process and our change management and the manufacturing handover. Here we are using SAP Engineering Record. You can see it on the top right picture there. And all the objects in SAP are then integrated in ECTR so that you can work with them in your UI as an engineer, collecting all your objects that you want to do the changes on. And then we have integrated a workflow also into Engineering Control Center that is built on the standard SAP workflow. But we have sort of tweaked it a bit so that we can utilize the information that exists in SAP on the objects that we want to change. For example, if a product is produced somewhere, then the workflow is automatically adjusting so that all the stakeholders for that specific product needs to approve the change. So you can do a lot of things in this area. And here we get like traceability and history of changes. Another sort of win that we have seen that is sort of starting to mature is this functionality of using digital twins, where we can also support manufacturing, which is in most cases not using authoring tools. They are maybe more in the SAP GUI or in some other applications. But still they want to sort of bring up the actual product, maybe measure it and see that they have the correct tools for the manufacturing and so on. And then they can have a more sort of visual collaboration with between R&D and supply. So they can redline the product and then send back to R&D and improve the collaboration. So main benefits that we see here from a user perspective, as I mentioned in the past, we had a lot of islands. So now it's more structured and connected. The SAP data connects to the design. So the product is sort of more clearly defined. In the past, we used a lot of text codes. Today, we use more digital classifications and things like that. And then it becomes easier to search. And also the search functionality that we got from ECTR has also helped a lot. Traceability, of course, you want to see on all objects in SAP what changes have I done. And that is also now possible. So from a company perspective, it has simplified the collaboration, R&D supply, also between others. And we now have a controlled change management, and it's easier to reuse data. I think the last bullet is maybe the biggest one from a company perspective. And of course, it's a foundation to build on. We're starting up a journey towards S4 now, so I think this is really a good, stable platform to build on.
Thanks, Joachim. That was the solution itself. And when the solution was defined, we had a lot of work around the implementation part. And I would say that the implementation part is something that we started very early. And I think that is a key for good rollout and implementation. There are a lot of activities that needs to be run in parallel as long as you define your solution. The change management part, preparing for training, preparing for go live, the different scenarios around go live. You need to start that early, which is required in order to get the prepared organization. One of the key things are, of course, migration, which also started very early in this process. Then. If we look on the sequence of how we did things and how we planned it, we had a global or a regional global rollout. We started in Europe with a pilot, certain sites getting started, doing some fixes on the initial parts, and then scaling up. For each site, we had different phases that we need to walk through, meaning preparation steps in order to secure readiness for each site before we had to go live. Supporting this solution globally, we extended our infrastructure to a high extent, meaning that the needs of regional and local storage. In the past, we had local storage everywhere. Now we moved it up to regional. And of course, it's a lot of how you scale your infrastructure is depending on your ways of working, your network, and the structure between sites. And this is something we have worked alongside during both the rollout and continue now to really be as efficient as possible in the infrastructure. If we view the migration a little bit more in the details, we started early, and the recommendation is, of course, to start early, because you need to do a lot of cleansing of data, and often you say that the solution is as good as the data that you bring with you. So it's important to start early. The migration process was iterated several times, in meaning that we did several both virtual loads and validating the rules, and then we did certain loads into the both the test environment and also into productive environment in the end. It's important to start to migrate as early as possible, do the test runs in order to make sure that you have the right rules to be as prepared as possible then. From a sort of site perspective and the different sort of storage that we had earlier, we put them together, we migrate them then according to the regional rollouts, and we migrated a lot of files, and we cleansed a lot of files as well. So going from duplicates into a unique file was an important one for us then. If we look into the lessons I've learned that we had, both from an implementation and migration perspective, start early with the preparation parts. That is nothing that you do in the end when you have the solution ready. You need to prepare your time in the organization as well, because it's time consuming. Both for UATs and go live preparation. This is nothing that you sort of just do by in short periods. It is an investment that you get back after go live, because you still anyway will have sort of a preparation phase and implementation phase that will that you need to plan for. We did since we run the regional rollout. We started up with one migration team, but we extended that into two, so we can prepare two regions at the same time. And I think that is the key in order to make a shortest possible rollout session. All activities around change is important. We need to work closely with the organization that we are implementing it into. We need to find a pull situation, so you really need to have feeling that this is what I would like to have. So communication is of importance from starting point into the end. And of course, the commitment to start and starting to drive, because you can have a tendency to push everything forward, so you need to have decisions on starting points, and then you take it from there. And so all in all, from our side, it is a journey. It's a long one. It takes a lot of hours and work, but when you are there in the end, you really can have something to build on, as we mentioned, and then you just continue to develop your efficiency and your ways of working. That was all from us. We would like to thank you all for so much for our presentation. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.